Hello students, welcome back to the Analyst for 5th January 2025, where we will be discussing 7 most important articles from the Hindu and the Indian Express. As usual, we'll be dividing our discussion into 2 parts. In the first one, we'll be trying to understand 2 articles in greater depth, where in the first analysis section, we'll be discussing regarding the Great Nicobar Island project and the recent changes and the broader implications of this project. In the second article, we'll be looking into the role of villages in the Viksit Bharat according to our Prime Minister, and we'll be looking into several government schemes empowering the Indian villages. In the simplified section, which is the next part, we'll be trying to understand in great detail the 5 important articles which are highly important for the upcoming prelims 2025 examination. So stay tuned. So students, before I start the discussion, I want to wish you all a very happy new year, and I wish for your success and all the endeavors that you will be taking forward with high amount of positivity and optimism. So with this, let us start with the very first article today. Now here, recently the Ministry of Shipping has proposed or added some more proposals to the existing mega infrastructure project on the Great Nicobar Island, and this is a very significant portion where we have to understand what the recent government of the day is taking various initiatives to improve the infrastructural development of our country. As you all know, infrastructure is nothing but the increase of investment to build more and more capital assets, or say capital goods in our country. So in this way, we understand this Great Nicobar Island is sought to be transformed for a better amount of military readiness to have more amount of eco-friendly tourism in this region. But this entire infrastructural projects or the building of capital intensive projects in that location is posing some challenges which pertain to the local tribal sections and also the broader environmental implications. So this is why this makes this particular topic highly important for our prelims, where we need to talk about current events of national and international importance, where we have to discuss a little bit of mapping in this particular area. Also in GS3, we have to talk about infrastructural projects that India is undertaking with reference to its energy sector, ports, roads, etc. Also, we need to talk about the environmental section, based on conservation, environmental pollution degradation, environment impact assessment. So we'll be trying to understand how all of these things are linked in this issue. So we'll be getting started with some map related aspects. Firstly, focus on the entire Andaman and Nicobar Islands. We have the Andaman Sea to the right side and the Bay of Bengal on the left side. And when we talk about the Andaman Island in isolation, we know that Andaman Islands are a group of islands which is consisting of Andaman Islands in the north and Nicobar Islands in the south, which is a group of around 836 islands, out of which 31 are inhabited only. So we can understand the rest of the islands are uninhabited or untouched by human population, or touched by human populations by extremely primitive tribal populations. And also we need to understand that when we talk about the Andaman Islands itself, we find that it is itself divided into north, middle and south and Little Andaman. In this particular section, we also find various important channels which can be important for our examination. For the very first one, we have near the Coco Islands, which is of Myanmar, we have the Coco Channel, right? Towards the south, we will be finding that we have the Middle Andaman, and in this section itself, we have the Barren Island, which is an extremely important part because it was asked in the PYQ, and it is the only active volcano in the, say, arc that is stretching from Sumatra to Burma, that is Myanmar, right? And also we find, alongside the same, we find the Ritchie's Archipelago, right? And also in the South Andaman area, we have Port Blair, right? Which is the capital of this Union Territory. And also under the same, we have the Duncan Passage, following which we have the Little Andaman and the famous 10-degree channel which is separating the Andaman Islands and the Nicobar Islands, right? And in the Nicobar Islands, we find that the main project will be happening on this Great Nicobar Island at the extreme south, right? Also, we have Indira Point based, which is on the southern part of our Great Nicobar, right? Can anyone in the comment section let me know why Indira Point is very famous for, right? And also we find we have the Sombrero Channel and the Great Channel separating the Nicobar Islands in between, correct? So this was the entire mapping side. And also when we talk about the Andaman and Nicobar Island, right, so we have this strategically positioned just off the eastern coast of our country, which makes it extremely in close proximity with Myanmar, Thailand, Indonesia, and also the rest of South Asia such as Thailand and Myanmar, and Malaysia, right? So we have this island located also very close to the Strait of Malacca, which is a major shipping lane across the world, right? And in the comment section, you also let me know amongst the two important cities of Chennai and Kolkata, you let me know the island group is closest to which particular city. And also we understand that it shares maritime borders with Indonesia, Myanmar and Thailand. Also in the comments you let me know which of the countries here is closest to our Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So with this mapping aspect, I want all of you to solve 2018 and 17 PYQs in the comments again. And also you have to understand that sometimes in the prelims examination, UPSC will be playing with your mind. What I mean is that look at this 2018 question. Look at the first statement and the third statement. First statement is talking that Barren Island volcano is an active volcano located in the Indian territory. The last time Barren Island volcano erupted was in 1991 and it has remained inactive since then. So don't you think the statement 1 and statement 3 are totally contradictory with each other? So here we have to understand either of the statement 1 or statement 3 is correct, right? So this is how you should be understanding the language of the UPSC through the PYQs. That's why I always emphasize on reading the PYQs again and again. And also if you read the answer, you can automatically eliminate at least one of them. So by eliminating, you let me know in the comments what is the answer of this and also what is the answer of the same that we just discussed. Okay, now we'll be moving on to the details of the project here. As we can see, this is the map of the Great Nicobar Island, right? Here we have the Indira Point. And we have the Campbell National Park, right? We have the Galathea National Park. We have some of the important projects, the recent proposals, as we can find, it's stretching along the south and the southeast part of the Great Nicobar Islands. So what are those projects and how these projects were conceived in recent times? Firstly, this came after a Niti Aayog proposal, a Niti Aayog report by the name of Mega Infrastructure Project, right? So this is, say, proposing on the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and it is trying to propose an integrated development corporation that will be taking care of all the infrastructural projects, be it the international airports or the transshipment say terminal, which will be set up here, and it will be under this purview which will be overseeing all the infrastructural projects that will be constructed. And here it is to be noted that this entire project is actually conceptualized for the overall development of the region. How? Because there will be power plants that will be supplying power to the local people. It will be coming at an estimated cost of 75,000 crores, which will be borne by the government. But it will be in turn creating how many jobs? Almost 1.28 lakh in excess of jobs it will be created, right? And here the local people will be getting the most benefits, right? Alongside the same, an international container transshipment terminal, which will be catering to all the international shipping vessels passing through the region, hence giving India an edge in the heavily busy waters near the Strait of Malacca. Also, apart from this, the recent additions as proposed by the Ministry of Shipping is that after consultation with various departments and also with the Andaman and Nicobar Island Integrated Development Corporation and the local governments there, right, the various say government officials have came to agreed that there should be a shipbuilding and ship breaking facility. Now here this is kind of a digression from the main moot point that we are discussing as of now, because as of now this project is kind of an military and strategic project, because we'll be looking at the strategic implication in the later part of the discussion here, right? So the main ambition is military and strategic purpose, and also to promote eco-friendly tourism, right? So here when we are talking about shipbuilding and shipbreaking facility, it is kind of moving away from that objective. Why? Because this is kind of a commercial operation, right? Where the same commercial operation can take place maybe say on other parts of our country, but that the same is taking place just beside our international container transshipment terminal, which will be set up. So maybe it is an extension of this strategic aim to an commercial aim that the government is thinking right now, right? Also, the government is thinking to set up a dedicated port for only export and import services. Apart from that, an entirely new airport from scratch, that is the meaning of the term greenfield international airport, will be set up, that will be used for two purposes, military and civilian purposes, right? And also gas, solar power plants, right, and various other infrastructural aspects related to power sectors also will be set up. And finally, a new greenfield city will be built around all of these developmental projects. So these are the main details of the project that we have to keep in mind, and why this project was conceptualized in the very first place by Niti Aayog report. We have to keep in mind that this Niti Aayog report was not the very first time this idea was conceived, because in 1970s, remember, this time it was a time of the heightened Cold Wars. Also, India was not trying to go into either of the camps alongside the same time. The entire marine shipping segment was also growing. That's why the government back then in 1970s, they thought of transforming the Andaman and Nicobar Island and using the island as strategic basis for military purposes and also for shipping purposes. Because also by this time, India-China war has already occurred, leading into an humiliating defeat for India. That is why India was also looking into other military aspects, and it's developing this a theater, that is the Eastern Oceanic Theater, right? So that is why this idea was conceived back then. And also we understand right now the areas of Malacca, Sunda and Lombok, these are the heaviest, or say the most busiest sections of shipping lanes. So that is why India is trying to capitalize on that. Apart from that, the increasing amount of Chinese military facility in these areas. For example, China now and again, right, anytime they send these merchant ships, their own defense ships, their surveillance submarines, right? So China is doing this aggressive activities on the ocean, Indian Ocean aspect, right? And also recently China is also trying to gather many of the neighboring nations and trying to build military facilities there, such as at Coco Islands of Myanmar. If you remember the Coco Islands, right, it is just located just a stone throw away from our own Andaman Islands in the north, right? So this is how China is trying to encircle us. Also, this is the main reason why India is focusing on this strategic importance. Apart from this, India is also trying to build up close surveillance techniques, involving various technological aspects. So that is why India is also trying to elevate this project. And also, when we'll be having this kind of infrastructure in this region, it will be serving as a strong military deterrence to China and also to other like-minded nations such as China in this region, if at all it will be developed in the future. Correct? So this is why this particular strait is extremely important. That is why India is trying to have their air base, military base in this region. Apart from this, we have some other issues such as drugs, such as drug trafficking, such as the increasing menace of pirates in the region, due to which improved presence of military personnel will be serving good for India. So here we also need to discuss the concerns. We have discussed the strategic ambitions, which is extremely important for keeping the sovereignty and the integrity of our country. It is also poised at improving the lives, or say the living standards of the local population, but it is coming at a cost, and the cost is extremely high according to various environmental activists and also various experts in our country, including various bureaucrats. So here the main concern is that the project site, which is along the south and the eastern, southeast portion of this island, is that this is home to the Shompen tribes. And we have to understand that these are the tribal populations who have made this island their home for centuries, for so many years. And that is why we have to understand if we get close, in very close contact with them, we can be posing a risk to their existence by passing various diseases from us to their population. We will be also posing various economic losses for them because of the displacement due to these various projects, right? Apart from this, we know that around 8.5 lakh trees needs to be felled to construct all these facilities, which will be causing extreme amount of deforestation, right? And also we have to understand the specific type of loss to flora and fauna will be immense, because 648 species of flora and 330 species of fauna will be destroyed, including iconic species of this place, right? Such as the wild pig, Nicobar wild pig, tree shrew, the great Nicobar crested serpent eagle, the Nicobar paradise flycatcher, and the Nicobar megapode, right? So these are the various risks that will be posing to them, apart from the risk that is already being posed to the Shompen tribes, who are essentially hunter-gatherers, right? Who are living their old way of life, a very happy life, that will be disrupted. Right. Apart from this, we also have the giant leatherback turtle, right, which has also made this island home for its nesting purposes. So maybe in the future, the particular species will be losing its nesting ground and the ground for laying eggs, and hence a threat to their existence. It will be also posing a threat to the coral and marine ecosystem, because this part of the island is extremely rich in coral ecosystems. And here, this particular project will be totally be destroying their reefs. And also the threat to dugongs are extremely high. Also, we find the dugongs in the areas of seagrass meadows, or in areas where we have high amount of seagrasses. So the loss of seagrasses will be also leading to the loss of dugong population in the country, which is already facing loss of habitat. And here, that is why we have to understand, we have to take some concrete actions ahead. While the same project is extremely important to have greater military and strategic importance, on the other hand, we have this environmental issue also. So this is where we have to address this issue with immense patience, and following Lord Buddha's lessons on adopting Madhyam Marg, we have to follow various suggestions. And also we have to understand, over a period of time, when there are media reports, right, such as this, that several people have submitted RTI requests to seek further details, the government has cited Section 8 subclause 1A of the RTI Act, that this information cannot be given to the public based on sovereignty, integrity, security and strategic concerns. So government, according to some experts, is hiding some information based on the environmental pressures. Also, we understand that if we talk of a way forward, we must be again doing a thorough review along with a very strict environment impact assessment to look into the total costs and benefits of this entire project, mainly looking at the concerns that we have just discussed, right? Also, there was a social impact assessment on the local community that was, in which the local community were asked if they were okay with the project, or there were various deliberations into the viability of the project, where the people in November 2022, the local community, they did not agree with this kind of project that will be hampering their day-to-day life. They suggested various changes, but those changes did not take place in the final proposal. So we need more and more consultations with the local tribal councils, and essentially at the level of Gram Panchayat, right? Also, according to the NGT order of 2023, various clearances must be sought from high power committee that should be set up in consultation with the local tribal councils too. Also, we must be trying to balance, as usual, the strategic importance with the social importance with the ecological importance. And finally, the role of social media in raising this issue, in taking this issue forward, and also the role of media in highlighting the issue in the common mainstream media is extremely important. Where we see right now in media, we have so many useless news. We can have a space for extremely important news like this that will be highly important, spreading awareness between the people of the country. And here we have a mains practice question for all of you. You can let me know some of your comments on this particular question. and here you can give me 2-3 points, so I can look into it. And also you can take an A4 sheet and try to write this answer according to the things that we have just discussed. Now we'll be moving on to the next one. Recently, our Prime Minister has inaugurated the Gramin Bharat Mahotsav 2025, and this is an article in which we'll be trying to understand the various some of the brief issues where we find the rural areas are coping up with, and mostly the major part of the discussion will be understanding the various initiatives that the government has taken for rural upliftment over the period of 2014 to recent times since our Prime Minister came to power. Now here, this is an extremely important article when we talk about the government schemes, right? So where we'll be discussing all of the schemes which are important regarding the rural empowerment. So it is important that you take a note, and you can take a note according to the themes which we'll be discussing here, right? Also for GS2, we have the government schemes and policies for development in various sectors and the issues arising out of it. And also we have in GS3 inclusive growth and issues arising out of it. We know that inclusive growth is that concept where we have to take all of the sections of the populations, be it the poorest sections, be it the marginalized sections, be it the tribal sections. We have to take every one of them, even the richer sections, together in our economic growth. So it is only possible when we have urban area growing at a very rapid pace as of now, because we know we have the service sector which is quite prominent in the urban areas, right? In cities such as Hyderabad, Bangalore, Ahmedabad, we have good presence of service sector. But inclusive growth cannot only take help with this urban growth. We also need to take the rural areas forward. So this is our main mantra here according to our Prime Minister, that our Gaon se Rashtra ka Vikas. And here it is to be stated that those of us who were born and brought up in the villages know the potential of the village. This is the statement of a Prime Minister. And also I can very closely connect with this statement, and I hope that all of you can also connect with that those of who are brought up in the villages, they can know the potential of the villages, the various avenues of the villages, the potential the villages will be holding in our economic growth. Even Mahatma Gandhi, the father of our nation, told that the future of India lies in our villages and its communities and its various potentials. While the exact statement can be, analogous, so this is where we have to understand the importance of villages, correct? Also, Prime Minister noted that despite this, we have some of the challenges, right? For example, we have socio-economic, social challenges, infrastructure challenges, and environmental challenges. So let me discuss very briefly, some of this. That when we talk about the socio-economic challenges, we have poverty. We find that rural poverty is quite pronounced, and it is leading to various aspects of, say, loss of employment opportunities in the region, correct? Also, we have cases of underemployment and unemployment, where mostly we find the case of disguised unemployment is found, where we have higher amount of people working than the required capacity of our Indian agriculture. That is why we have higher outward migrations also from the villages into the urban areas, where this excess amount of people, they do not get absorbed in the urban areas and hence get absorbed in the informal sector and hence get very low wages in the urban areas. So they face a dual issue. At their homes, in the villages, they are not getting employment. In the urban areas, they are getting employment, but in the informal sector with no social security benefits. Also, inequalities are kind of high in the rural areas also, but not like the urban areas, but inequalities still exist. The gap between landless and the landed people is very large because of the unequal amount of implementation of land reforms. We understood that land reforms were mostly successful in two states such as West Bengal and Kerala. That ever since the government, state governments undertook the land reforms, these two states were quite ahead, and the rest of the states, they were lagging behind. And even still now, we have lesser amount of scope in this. Also, when we talk about the infrastructural challenges, the basic amenities such as proper amount of roads, proper amount of highways, proper amount of, say, other public facilities, right, such as mobile towers and so on, these are not well developed across all of the country. Mainly, this is very poorly set up in the northeastern villages. And we also understand the same issues at the border areas, the border villages, where we have lesser amount of basic amenities, correct? Also, the road connectivity is quite poor. Apart from this, the healthcare and the education facilities, we all know that the doctor to population ratio and the teacher right to student ratio is quite poor in the rural areas, where we have the lowest amount of qualities with respect of primary healthcare centers in the rural areas. And also when we talk about the government education institutions such as the primary schools, the conditions are also not good, especially for the women, right? Also when we talk about the social challenges, here we find higher instances of child marriages in the rural areas, especially in the state of West Bengal. We also find the high amount of gender inequality which is persisting in the region, right? So be it access to education, be it access to proper nutrition, we find the rural areas lag behind. Also the social exclusion of the Dalits, the Adivasi sections of the populations, they also still today face social exclusion prominently in various schools or government institutions. Also when we talk about their say participation, that is also quite less, correct? Then also at the end of the day, we also have a lack of awareness. It was also seen during the COVID vaccination drive, where most of the rural areas, it was reported in various news outlets that they were hesitant to receiving the COVID vaccines, correct? So this was mainly perpetuated by a lack of awareness. Apart from this, we also have a lack of awareness of the various government initiatives that are taken for the rural areas. We have also lack of awareness for the various amounts of latest policy debates and discussions in the same, right? Due to relatively higher amount of say illiteracy prevailing in those regions. Also, finally, when we talk about the environmental challenges, climate change is poised to impact our Indian villages in a very bad way. Be it the increasing amount of extreme weather events such as cyclones, such as droughts. So this is going to change the agricultural landscape over a period of time. So that is why we find that the environmental degradation, one of the example of the same is the depleting groundwater resources of our North Indian states, or say the heavy amount of say degradation that has taken place in the Maharashtrian region in the cotton cultivation region belt. So these are the examples where increased amount of pesticides, insecticides, or say commercial agriculture has degraded the quality of the soil there, right? Apart from this, the ever existing natural disasters also wreak havoc. So that is why the main agenda of the government right now is to transform India to a Viksit Bharat by 2047 by pioneering inclusive growth, by pioneering say growth in all sections of our walk of our lives. So that is why we understand that government is right now focusing on the villages aspect, correct? So you can use this kind of words in our answers, that as such as developing Viksit Bharat by 2047, or say Gram Mahotsav in this manner, right? So I will be dividing this particular announcements or say speech that has been delivered by our Prime Minister into basic facilities, into women empowerment, agriculture, rural economy, infrastructure development, entrepreneurship and financial inclusion, social and tribal development, environmental sustainability, and cultural and heritage promotion. So let us look at this one by one. So firstly, over a period of time, government has taken various initiatives. One of the very first is Swachh Bharat mission, that is having toilets in every village, which is a very simple thing to do. But over a period of time, we have seen, despite various difficulties, government has been kind of successful into spreading this particular mission. Also, we have the Jal Jeevan mission, that we must be having safe and potable and drinking water in all of the households of our villages. Also, we find the same ambition being carried forward via PM Awas Yojana, which is having Pakka houses for rural areas, especially for the landless laborers on the landless people. Also, we have the Ayushman Bharat Yojana via the setting up of Ayushman Arogya Mandirs, which will be catering to the healthcare needs of the BPL populations and the say downtrodden populations of the rural areas. Also, we have another important health initiatives, which is known as the E-Sanjeevani, which is trying to spread the concept of telemedicine, or teleconsultation of via say various electronic modes, via telephone modes, by to actually spread medical facilities in those areas. When we go on to the women empowerment aspect, correct, let us look at some data first. That 30 crore mudra loans has been disbursed to women. Mudra loans are those loans for MSMEs, right, which facilitate the MSMEs to take collateral free loans and set up their first enterprise, correct. Also, female enrollment in the higher education increased by 28% in the last 10 years, that is from 2024 to 2014. Also, we understand that the female constitute 43% of the enrollment in the STAM, or the Science and Technology, Engineering and Management courses, and this is one of the highest in the world. So these are some of the achievements that the government has done over a period of time. And also we have this particular scheme, the target is 3 crores, where the government is trying to transform 3 crore Didis into Lakpati Didis by giving them empowerment via participation in various aspects and generally to promote entrepreneurship, right. Also, we have the Drone Didi initiative, where the government of India will be equipping various Didis of our rural areas with drones. The government will be training them, giving money to buy the drone, right, and also giving loan facilities to have a proper drone ecosystem in the country, because we know drone sector is a very prosperous sector going forward. Also, we have this various self-help groups targeting at skill and entrepreneur initiatives, the Mudra Yojana, Stand Up India, which is a support for women-led initiatives, and also apart from this, we also have the SC/ST communities participating within the same, apart from other marginalized populations. We also have the bank Sakhis and the Bima Sakhis, which will be trying to promote insurance penetration and bank penetration, among the women sections. Also, when we talk about the agriculture and rural economy, we have the PM Kisan Samman Nidhi, which is trying to give 6,000 rupees per year to all of the farmers in the country, right. We have the PM Crop Insurance Scheme, the PM Fasal Bima Yojana, which is trying to have risk coverage for the loss of crops due to natural calamities and the various aspects. Apart from this, we have seen from time to time, government has always increased the MSPs to give a sustainable amount of price floor to the farmer. We know the price floor is the minimum amount that the farmers should be getting for their crops. We also have the Swamitva Yojana, which is trying to empower the rural India by actually creating accurate land mapping, property related aspects such as disputes to be looked at, and also establishing around 300 continuously operating reference stations across the country to look into the various aspects of planning, revenue collection and property rights in the rural areas. Also, apart from this, we have the Kisan credit card. We know that this is a credit card where the farmers can use the credit cards for their rural or non-rural purposes, right, which is extremely important for the fishing and the livestock farmers, who were included recently, correct. Also, the government has taken many initiatives to strengthen the PSCS, the primary agricultural cooperative societies at the lowest level, which is the lowest level of the rural cooperative sector, right, who are giving the short-term loans to the farmers. Apart from this, NABARD and farmer producer organizations are encouraged to onboard more and more farmers and have a proper ecosystem of them. And also, when we talk about the infrastructural development, we have the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, which is trying to promote motorable roads, a good amount of pakka roads in those parts of our country, in parts of our rural areas, which are not which have not even seen roads for the very first time. So in areas such as hill areas, northeast, and even in Nakshal heat areas, we are trying to promote Gram Sadak Yojana, and over a period of time, this is actually one of those government schemes which is applauded by various international agencies too, because of the comprehensive governance, monitoring and planning of this particular project. Also, government is setting more and more common service centers, which are digital centers for various services such as Aadhaar services, bank services, enrollment services, government scheme enrollment, and so on. So these are also trying to promote more and more inclusive growth. Apart from this, we have entrepreneurship and financial inclusion government initiatives. We have already discussed Mudra Yojana. Startup India is also trying to promote more and more rural innovation and entrepreneurship, as also we have seen recently, right, in Shark Tank. right? We have seen many of the entrepreneurs are coming from rural areas. They are bringing pickles, they are bringing papads, they are bringing so many rural GI tag products which they are showcasing, and they are getting equity from the judges, right? This is a broader initiative, or a broader ambition, innovation that the government of India envisaged in the Startup India mission, though they are not related. But we have understood that Startup India is successful in also penetrating the rural areas, right? Also, we have the various public sector banks who are enrolling the various rural areas for giving more and more priority sector lending. We know that the commercial banks have to give minimum of 40% of their loan, lendable funds to some sections such as women, SCs, entrepreneurs, right? We have renewable energies, and also for the rural areas too, correct? So for the agricultural activities too. So we have to understand that this credit saturation drives, or to promote more and more credit operations, is increasing. Also, we have the Swanidhi Yojana for small street vendors and businesses. Mainly this is also popular in the urban areas, but in the rural areas also many people are taking loans based on this. We have the facilities of online banking, UPI services, which are promoted in this region. Apart from this, the next theme is the social and tribal development, where we have a very important initiative known as the Vibrant Villages scheme, that is the development of border villages as first villages. And be it the various military instruction, installation, infrastructural abilities, economic abilities, this will be promoted here. And also we have the PM Janman Yojana, which is the development of tribal regions, which is a very, very important scheme which is trying to have proper amount of envelope scheme for the tribal populations. And also, according to a latest SBI research, the consumption expenditure survey remarks a decline in rural poverty that has decreased to 4.86% right now, which was quite high at 7.2% in financial 2023 and 25% in 2012. And also we have to understand this was due to higher consumption growth in between the bottom 0 to 5% of our income classes in the rural areas. Apart from this, the environmental sustainability themes such as promoting Amrit Sarovar campaign to care for the community reservoirs in the various rural areas to promote better amount of water conservation efforts plus rainwater harvesting is also some success that we have seen in many states such as Rajasthan, Gujarat, UP, and so on. Also, the Prime Minister has highlighted a very important initiative we all should remember, that is Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam, which is trying to promote afforestation drive, voluntary afforestation drives in the rural areas. Also, the government is trying to promote the natural farming mission very aggressively right now because of the degradation of our rural areas due to high use of chemicals. So as we have seen, many states in Andhra Pradesh and Maharashtra, even states such as UP, Madhya Pradesh, where various pilot projects of natural farming were conducted recently, right? So in these particular states, which has been found that natural farming is yielding good results. So government is trying to promote them. And finally, we have the GI tags from so many parts of our rural areas. You let me know in the comments 2 GI tags from rural areas. So we understand these GI tags empower the local community. They can produce those GI tagged items even for exports, and this was seen in many states which are increasing their incomes over a period of time from the export and also the domestic production and distribution of the GI tag items, correct? One famous example is Bihar's makhana, right? And here we also have final initiative, which is the Vishwakarma Yojana, which is trying to promote better amount of skilling, upskilling initiatives between the local artisans, handicrafts people, and also people involved in various crafts such as carpentry, pottery, etc. So it is trying to preserve those ancient skills that our people still have. So these are a comprehensive amount of list of those skills which our Prime Minister has highlighted in this page, and it is extremely important that we have to understand this particular question, that one can empower India by transforming India's villages into vibrant centers of growth and opportunity. So based on this particular schemes, we have seen that over a period of time, nearly 25 crore people have come out of poverty in the last 10 years, right? This is our Prime Minister speaking this, and we can use such things in introductions to these particular questions. And for the rest of the thing, you can write and let me know. Now, in the next one, we'll be looking into why public nutrition policies need precise targeting, and here we'll be discussing some of the important concepts related to malnutrition in the country. It is a very important topic for prelims and for our GS2, where we have to look into economic and social development and issues regarding poverty and hunger respectively. Let us start with the very basics of malnutrition. According to the WHO, where we all have to remember this definition, right? Malnutrition refers to deficiencies, excesses, or imbalances in the intake of energy or nutrients. It not only, contrary to popular knowledge, it not only looks into deficiencies of our nutrition, it also looks into the excess amount of food or nutrition that accrues to a person, correct? So it is generally, that is why classified into two broad groups, such as undernutrition and overweight, obesity, and diet related aspect. For example, the undernutrition aspect is looking into four things. Firstly, it is looking into four parameters. Firstly, the stunting, which denotes low height for age. That means if any child is having low height for their prospective age, for example, a 10-year guy or 10-year boy or girl may have, for example, an average height of 4 feet. Right? But that person or that particular child is only having a height of 2 or 3 feet. So this is a case of stunting. Wasting means that low weight for height. That same particular child is having low weight according to their average age group. Right? Also, underweight is that low weight for age. Correct? According to the height and age, we have wasting and underweight. And also we have micronutrient deficiencies or insufficiencies, such as the absence or very low presence of vitamin A, iron, and iodine can indicate the presence of this deficiencies. And we know that the lack of iron is actually attributed to the anemia, which is a very wide prevalent and one of the most prevalent diseases among women, but also among overall people due to malnutrition. Correct? Apart from this, which is looking at the undernutrition part, where the nutrition is less, we also can have overweight. This is also the state of malnutrition, that we have the various aspects of increasing obesity in the country, that is increasing the risk of diabetes, cancer, and various non-communicable diseases over a period of time. So this is also related to the same. According to the National Family Health Survey 5, we have some important data. All of you should be noting this data because we can use these answers, right? So for example, when we look at the prevalence of malnutrition, we find this is when we talk about the stunted, wasted, underweight, and overweight categories, we have this amount of percentage of persons. Also, when we talk about women, we have 18.7%. And when we talk about the prevalence of anemia, we understand the percentage actually very high, especially for women. So that is why WHO has came up with these global nutrition targets. These are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 targets, correct? For example, 40% reduction in the number of children under 5 who are stunted, 50% reduction of anemia cases in women of reproductive age, 30% in low birth weight, also no increase on childhood overweight, increase the rate of exclusive breastfeeding in the 6 months up to at least 50%, and reduce and maintain child wastage to less than 5%. So these are the 6 targets that is set up by the WHO as key national indicators. So these are the things which we have to achieve, and also please do note these targets in your answers. And also, according to 2023 Global Hunger Index, India ranked 111th out of the 125 countries, right? And now India has the world's largest and highest child wasting rate at 18.7%, correct? So this is why we have a concern. Apart from this, we have many government initiatives to prevent malnutrition. We have the midday meal scheme for the children. We have the ICDS, which is trying to promote Anganwadi services by having proper amount of care for both the pregnant and lactating women and also for their children, giving them skilling, education services, and also health and vaccine related services. We have the Mission Poshan, which is trying to look at the first 1,000 days and proper upkeep of the child, and also looking care for the mother. It is being upgraded to Mission 2.0, Mission Poshan 2.0, which is here 2.2 lakh Anganwadis will be upgraded as Saksham Anganwadis, right? Nutritional standards will be improved, quality and testing of the take-home ration will be strengthened, apart from various other things. We also have the Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana, which is trying to reward women for the opportunity cost of being pregnant, right? Here we have 5,000 rupees plus 1,000 rupees that will be given to women up to 2 children that they will be bearing. And also we have the scheme for adolescent girls between the age of 11 to 14 years, where their nutritional upkeep and the various amounts of care that need to be taken for their malnutrition or nutrition aspects need to be taken care of, right? Apart from this, we also have this rice fortification, especially in the midday meal, where the rice is being fortified with greater amount of vitamins, iron, folic acid, vitamin B12, correct? So here we have some of the highlights that the recent evaluation found that various countries, the regional and at the national level, out of 204 countries, by 2030 it is projected that few countries, and not India in that particular matter, would meet the targets for stunting, and none would meet the target for low birth weight, anemia, and the childhood overweight. That the target that we have just seen here, the global nutrition targets. So the state of this particular thing is very poor, correct? Slow progress is actually blamed at the poorer implementation of the schemes, where we have understood the prevalence of anemia in India has remained static for the last 2 decades. Also, we have to understand we do not know the exact cause of anemia in the country. Mainly, we understand that there are many surveys which have taken recently that iron deficiency is not only the major thing regarding anemia. We have so many other factors that for which anemia is hurting Indians, right? So that is why there are some proposals such as these 3 proposals that the government of India that must be keeping in mind for future malnutrition related activities, such as we have to understand the stunting activities occurs between the first 2 years of life. That is why we must be taking greater care here. We must be having greater amount of diversified diets. We also have to understand that the energy intake is a driver of growth in the first 2 years. Correct? And here we must be including more of oil resources, and this is a very good sign that the government right now is also including oil in their midday meal scheme. Also, the average intake of fat must increase over a period of time, and that is only 7 grams per day. That is within our country as of now, we have to increase to 30 to 40 grams per day to have that better amount of nutrition outcomes in the country. And here we have 2 PYQs from 2016 and 2018. Please let me know the answer of this 2016 PYQs in the comments below. ISRO has tested growing crops in space. Yes, you have heard that right. We are now growing crops not only on our fields but in the space. This is very exciting news. We have the same aspect for our prelims and GS3. So this is where we need to focus firstly on the basics of the mission. This particular crop of cowpea was transported to space via this PSLV orbital experimental module or POEM. Now we know that PSLV is having 4 stages. We start from the solid, liquid stage, where in the second stage we have the Vikas engine, right? So when we launch this particular PSLV, we release this POEM module, which is located at the very top stage, that is the 4th stage here, which is deployed in the upper stage in our orbit. And this is where this particular thing remains in our orbit of our Earth for a period of time before it falls back into the atmosphere and burns. It does not become a space debris which floats around. It comes back to the Earth and falls down. Correct? And here, the full name here is Compact Research Module for Orbital Plant Studies. So the main objective is to study how plants grow in microgravity conditions, because we know On the earth we have gravity, that is why we have the soil particles clumping together, we have the water. But in microgravity conditions or near zero gravity conditions, we can have some difficulty in growing the crops. But now ISRO has grown the crop using 8 cowpea seeds, as we have seen here, right? This is the module where we have grown the seeds. And here this is developed by the Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, important for your prelims, demonstrating ISRO's capabilities of growing food and contributing to food research in space, which is an activity which is already being taking place by various countries such as US and China. Correct? The main benefits here of growing food in space is, firstly, if we ever are to go to Mars and various other planets and maybe beyond our solar system, we would need food, right? That is why we would try to develop that research and development right now. Correct? We also need to develop expertise in various controlled environment agriculture. That is where we can have, say, a particular room, and within that room we can actually have a micro ecosystem, and we should be trying to understand how we can develop that. First, by starting experiments with microgravity. Also, knowledge from this particular space farming can also let us know what are the various ways in which we can use the least amount of resources and still have agricultural crops, or say agricultural productivity, despite say global warming, climate change, and various aspects of extreme weather events. So this is the main things that we have to take away from the article. In the next one, we'll be looking into why the rupee is weakening against dollar. Very important for our prelims and also for GS3 Indian economy. When we look at the recent data, we find that the currency depreciated around 3% in the last year, that is 2024. And why is this taking place at all? We know that exchange rate here is generally meaning is how many of our own domestic currency we can trade for a foreign currency. For example, let us take a very simple example. If right now the dollar is valued at 85 rupees, that means we have an exchange rate of 85 rupees to $1, right? So this is where we understand the aspect of exchange rate. And I want to ask you all, is the exchange rate only determine the market forces of demand and supply? You can pause the video and think. Now let me tell you, it does not, because we have 3 ways of exchange rate in the entire world. Firstly, we have fixed exchange rate, where the central bank fixes the value of our rupee with dollars, with pound, with various other currencies, and whatever the value the central bank will be fixing, the currency will be, not appreciating or depreciating here. The central bank will be buying foreign currency or selling foreign currency in the market to stabilize the value of our currency. Next, we have the flexible exchange rate, such as this exchange rate. This is a snapshot from your NCRT, where the exchange rate is denoted by rupees to dollar, and based on the demand and the supply of dollars and rupees, we get an equilibrium rate, and this is generally determined by the various private organizations or various institutions which are trading in currency, right? Next, we have this managed floating exchange rate. Now this is a rate where the central bank tells that, okay, I can fluctuate the dollar, I can let the dollar fluctuate with respect to my rupee between 80 to 85 rupee. If it falls below or if it is going above, then I will be intervening by buying or selling dollars to essentially help get the best of the both worlds of fixed exchange rate and flexible exchange rate. So this is how this exact thing is happening. And also we have to understand that in India we follow a system of managed floating exchange rate, and recently there are some factors with reference to what impacted the demand and supply of our currency that impacted the exchange rate of our country. Firstly, we understand that the central bank can adopt a very loose monetary policy in which we have easy amount of rupee floating in the economy. If we have more amount of supply of rupee, we know when the supply of rupee goes up, it is definitely bound to lower the value of rupee, and if the value of rupee is lower, we get depreciation, as simple as that. If the value goes up or the supply of rupee comes down relative to dollar or any other foreign currency, we have appreciation. Apart from this, the demand for our rupee by the foreigners of our country, maybe an US individual is coming India to buy land, to invest in our stock market, so then our rupee is being demanded very much. And if it is being demanded, it is becoming short in supply. If supply reduces, we understand it can appreciate in value, it can increase in value. That is when our rupee appreciates. And if, which I have seen recently, the foreigners dump their money and go back to their countries, what happens in this case? Depreciation. Now here we'll be looking into what are some of the recent reasons for the rupee depreciation of our country. We have to first understand that global investors are very confused right now. The pandemic took place in 2020, right? And there we understood that due to the pandemic, the economy was shut down. After we had huge amount of inflation, due to which the central banks try to increase their interest rates. And this is where we have understood over a period of time, the situation became very, very tense for the foreign institutional investors. And that is where we understand due to the high inflation, correct, this led to monetary tightening, that is reducing the money supply. Correct. And this is where we understand right now the inflation is kind of controlled in many parts of the world. And this is why recently also we understood that the US Fed lowered their interest rate. And this is where we find that most of the investors have also withdrawn money right now from markets like India and investing in more advanced economies, advanced markets. Correct. This is also what is leading to withdrawal of money, increase of rupee in our country, and hence depreciation. Other aspects is that high inflation in the country and that is higher inflation in India than the US is also leading investors to run away, and this is mainly attributed to RBI's loose monetary policy. And that is why in recent times it is expected that maybe RBI will be increasing the interest rates. Correct. And also India is dependent on traditional sources such as crude oil and gold imports, which is leading into various increasing demand of dollars in our economy. If dollar demand is increasing, that means dollar supply is coming down, right? Because many people are importing gold and crude oil in the country. That is when depreciation of rupee is happening. And also we have an inability to boost our exports. If we do not export more, we will not be getting supply of dollars, again depreciation. Also we understand RBI has been using its dollar reserves to help prevent our rupee depreciation. To even the dollar reserves with the RBI is coming down. As also we have seen, recently the foreign exchange of our RBI is coming down from an historic high. So these are the various reasons that we have to keep in mind, and in the comment section you let me know 2019 and 2021 PYQs solutions. We are solving a lot of PYQs which are extremely important to practice before our 2025 prelims examination. All of you please do participate and you let me know the answer in the comments below. In the next one, we'll be looking into how we are promoting special technical textiles. And here, what are technical textiles? Firstly, we have to keep in mind these are special use textiles, right? These are special use textiles. For example, say if I take example of Meditech. So these are the textiles which we use in particular hospitals. Or for example, if you take the example of sports people who wear specialized garments, they use technical textiles. They use specialized, jerseys for greater mobility, sweat absorption and so on. So these are those textiles which help create some special purposes, right? Also we see the same in our car seats, correct? So these are the various examples that we have to keep in mind, and please do note the various terms. And these are very easy to understand also. Build tech, cloth tech, agro tech. So these are all the textiles pertaining to this particular textiles, as you can see in these examples also. Now the government of India is trying to promote the same via National Technical Textiles Mission with an outlay of around 1480 crores. And this is trying to promote a greater number of startups, innovation in this aspect, as also seen in various, say, news articles recently, such as the incubation center in Tippur, or say 50 lakh grants for the great scheme for textile, or say the 2 startups which have been approved by the government, and also projects worth 13 crores in technical textiles. And this is why, as we know right now, between April and November 2024, textile exports have been increasing by around 6.2%. And this is at the behest of also imports of technical textile, because we know that we import the most technical textile from China. Apart from this, we understand that we must be developing this sector going forward, and that is why we understand out of that particular 1480 crores, 50% has already spent, and another 500 crore has been earmarked for creating an ecosystem by March 2026. And between this, India has greater amount of demand, or say production capability, for packing technology and geotextiles. So this is where we have to keep this concept in mind. Finally, we'll be moving on to the last article here. Recently, our health ministry is looking into this China flu reports, and here we have to find that particular aspect here, which is the disease, or say the name of the disease is human metapneumovirus, which is a recent virus which is spreading and having mild infections in China. That is why the risk is not that high. It belongs to the pneumonoviridae family, which is also causing measles, respiratory syncytial virus, human metapneumovirus. So this is where we have to keep this in mind, right? The RSV infection is actually mainly spread between the young sections of the population and between the elderly and the people with weakened immune system, right? Also, we understand the HM virus is also more spread between the children, elderly, and the people with weakened immune system, and they are generally seen during winters and early spring. The main symptoms which are quite common between both of them is cough, fever, runny nose, blocked throat, shortness of breath, so on, right? And mainly they are spread through the touch and say contamination of surfaces in the same manner as RSV infection. And here we have to revise our concepts of virus a little bit, because there have been PYQs here. Again, I would love all of you to revise the same with me. See, viruses are non-living organisms. Please do note that, right? They're extremely tiny biological particles made of either of RNA or DNA molecules, right? Inside a proper protein coating, as you can see here, correct? And they can be of various shapes: helical, polyhedral, spherical, complex, and mainly they are present within the host cells. Those host cells can be animals, correct? Various animals. They can be plants, and they can be even bacteria, where they hide within the bacteria and they call as bacteriophages, right? And the main thing that activates them after they enter the host is actually their own genetic code, or genetic material that is held within the molecule of RNA or DNA. Within the same, we have two kinds of viruses: RNA virus and DNA virus, correct? We have this RNA virus which are extremely prone to mutations. They always mutate, and that is why the nature of spread of their disease is much more serious. Also, we have various virus families, the various diseases, and the mode of transmission. This information is given in your handout. Please do revise it very properly, correct? And alongside the same, we have another sets of PYQs 2021. Both from that, you let me know what are the answers of this in the comments below. And this is a question where that is why you have to keep such concepts in news in high importance for the upcoming prelims 2025 examination. So I thank you all for being a very patient audience. Do attempt the quiz which is following up, and also do let me know the answers in the comments below. Till we meet again, all the best and best of luck. Thank you.